Hey everyone, it's Monday, which means Conscious Creation Audio Day. And today I want to read part of chapter 1 of Dr. Maxwell Maltz's Cybernetics. This book is all about self-image, and even Seth speaks of the exercises in the book of Dr. Maxwell Maltz. So that's how I got interested in reading it. I've been drawn to it before, but somehow at that time I wasn't ready. Or let's say the version of me that picked the book up wasn't ready. And this version is, and it is truly a game changer. So, what I will do is I will read the first couple of pages and I will also comment on it backed up by the knowledge of Seth and Neville, because I think it's really nice and important to link these teachings because it makes us understand these teachings better. And I also decided not to do like a full chapter now because there's only so much information you can take in at a time anyway. So let's get into the first couple of pages of chapter 1. Chapter 1, The Self-Image, Your Key to Living Without Limits. Nothing splendid has ever been achieved except by those who dared believe that something inside them was superior to circumstance. Bruce Barton. A revolution in psychology began in the late 1960s and exploded in the 1970s. When I wrote the first edition of Cybernetics in 1960, I was at the forefront of a sweeping change in the fields of psychology, psychiatry, and medicine. New theories and concepts concerning the self began emerging from the works and findings of clinical psychologists, practicing psychiatrists, and even cosmetic or so-called plastic surgeons like myself. New methods growing out of these findings resulted in dramatic changes in personality, in health, and even in basic abilities and talents. Chronic failures became successful. F students changed into straight A pupils with no extra tutoring. Shy, retiring, inhibited personalities became happy and outgoing. At the time, I was quoted in the January 1959 issue of Cosmopolitan magazine, in which T.F. James summarized these results obtained by various psychologists and MDs as follows. Understanding the psychology of the self can mean the difference between success and failure, love and hate, and bitterness and happiness. The discovery of the real self can rescue a crumbling marriage, recreate a faltering career, transform victims of personality failure. On another plane, discovering your real self means the difference between freedom and the compulsions of conformity. This was barely predictive of everything that has occurred in the 4 decades that followed. When Cybernetics was first published, if you visited a bookstore to obtain a copy, you might have found it nestled on an obscure shelf with only a dozen or so other so-called self-help books. Today, of course, self-help is one of the largest sections in the entire bookstore. Psychologists, psychiatrists, and therapists have proliferated, new specialists have emerged, such as sports psychologists and corporate performance coaches, and the stigma of seeking such help has disappeared to such an extent that in some circles doing so is even trendy. Self-help psychology has become so popular, it even has found a place in television infomercials. Once difficult, now easy. I'm gratified that much of this modern explosion of ideas, information, and people to assist you with everything from conquering procrastination to shaving strokes off your golf score appears to be based on psycho-cybernetics. You might say that my original work was ahead of its time, or you might say that it has aged well. Whatever you conclude, the most important thing for you, personally is that the fundamental promise of psycho-cybernetics has been proven true beyond any doubt or argument. That is, once difficult, now easy. Whatever is now difficult for you, whatever may have prompted your reading of this book, can be transformed from difficult to easy through the use of certain sound psychological concepts, easily understood and mastered mental training techniques, and a few practical steps. Your secret blueprint. I would argue that the most important psychological discovery of modern times is the discovery of the self-image. By understanding your self-image and by learning to modify it and manage it to suit your purposes, you gain incredible confidence and power. Whether we realize it or not, each of us carries within us a mental blueprint or picture of ourselves. It may be vague and ill-defined to our conscious gaze. In fact, it may not be consciously recognizable at all, but it is there, complete down to the last detail. This self-image is our own conception of the sort of person I am. It has been built up from our own beliefs about ourselves. Most of these beliefs about ourselves have unconsciously been formed from our past experiences, our successes and failures, our humiliations, our triumphs, and the way other people have reacted to us, especially in early childhood. From all these, we mentally construct a self or a picture of a self. Once an idea or a belief about ourselves goes into this picture, it becomes truth, as far as we personally are concerned. We do not question its validity, but proceed to act upon it just as if it were true. The self-image then controls what you can and cannot accomplish, what is difficult or easy for you, even how others respond to you, just as certainly and scientifically as a thermostat controls the temperature in your home. Specifically, all your actions, feelings, behavior, even your abilities are always consistent with this self-image. Note the word always. In short, you will act like the sort of person you conceive yourself to be. More important, you literally cannot act otherwise, in spite of all your conscious efforts or willpower. This is why trying to achieve something difficult with teeth gritted is a losing battle. Willpower is not the answer. Self-image management is. Okay, so far the pages that I wanted to read to you. And when you're familiar with Neville and Seth, which I believe you are, otherwise you would not be here, then you have noticed that he's talking about self-conception and self-image, which Neville calls state and concept of self. I think Seth calls it blueprint, and potato, the word doesn't matter. What matters here is that also Dr. Maxwell Maltz gives us ideas about how our reality is created. And if you will follow the other chapters that I will read to you in the weeks to come, or days to come, I have to see. But in any case, every Monday you can find something new. You will see that he's also really about using your imagination, which I think is amazing because this man was teaching in a completely different way than Neville and Seth teach, which just proves that that's how reality really works. Like different teachers, different ways of approaching things, and they all say the same, which is the state determines the outcome. And if we believe something to be easy, it will become easy for us. If we believe something to be difficult, it is part of the self-image It is part of the concept of the self. It is part of the state. The state says it is difficult. All we have to do is change our concept of self. All we have to do is move into a different state. The creations are finished. The states contain it all. So also the idea of something is easy belongs to a state, to a concept of self, to a self-image. I hope you enjoyed this clip so far. And I also, well, actually, I trust you enjoyed it. I trust you also learned something new. Last week's article I wrote was also about self-image on my blog. This Wednesday, I will post a new blog. If you go to the website link, then if you're interested in receiving updates when I post something new, you can subscribe there. Have a wonderful day. Ciao!